Defensively, we're not that bad. Like, I think in terms of rating, we're somewhere in midfield. We work so hard defensively for the most part. Let's say for 3 quarters. Let's talk about the first 3 quarters. We work so hard defensively and lock it down with, whether it be the scout, the personnel, the effort. Like, we do so good, and then we just don't reward ourselves down the other end. So. It could be we're giving up the offensive rebound like we did tonight and like we did the 10 first half offensive rebounds against Illawarra. So reward yourself with a defense rebound, and then you get it, and then we just throw it away. It's just the most frustrating thing for these guys. And I do apologise. This is why we don't have a player with us right now, is because they're downstairs, and I didn't start it. They're right now. They've got a closed locker room, and there's some conversation going that I just wanted to let that take place organically and let that flow, but. There's frustrations, right? We do a pretty half-decent job defensively, and then we don't make teams have to defend us the same way that we're defending. Like, we have to defend hard. We've got to defend the back end of plays. We've got to defend the counters, and, guys are competing for position and fighting early. And then we come down and we don't even make the other team have to defend. We throw it away. And that's the crazy thing about it is it's... sometimes we're trying to thread the needle on a back door, but recognise that your defender's so far off you that he's the one picking off the pass. It's the coming off the on ball and trying to take on 3 defenders, and then we give up a charge or a turnover. And that's one thing. There are possessions we come down, we pass it, and it goes straight through our hands and out of bounds. So we're in a very awkward spot at the moment offensively. The result of that is, it's still a 2-3 possession game in the fourth, and then we start to tighten up, and then in the fourth quarter we're getting stung with back cuts and back doors, and the communication's off, and it just snowballs, right, and then becomes worse and worse. So, we're in a position right now where it's. I know I mentioned before, like, it's not fun, but it's really frustrating, and it's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for the playing group. There's frustrated individuals down there that, probably want to play a certain way a little bit harder, and, maybe they're not getting the response from their teammates. So, this is a real awkward position to be in, and we've only got ourselves to blame.
You mentioned a few of those shortcomings just there, but what exactly do you pin down that change from that first quarter to the rest of the game to? Was it one thing in particular? Was it one player in particular? I know you mentioned intent during the second quarter, but did you want to see more out of your players? Did you want to see more passion?
You can see it. I think it's quite obvious when you see through the TV, right? Like, there's body language, and I'm not talking about necessarily the obvious ones where they roll the shoulders forward and they slump, but it starts to migrate over to now we're talking to the officials more. Like, why? I felt like we did a good job in that preseason, nipping that in the bud and moving away to just play the next possession. But it starts to creep where we start, talking to the referees, and then, we get hit on a back screen, and, it's an uncontested layup, and rather than moving on, it's 2 guys looking at each other with their palms up. What happened, and move on. Like, we've got to communicate it. So it's a stance. Like, it's dudes being down in stance, being up the court aggressive, and then guys walking back and, standing upright at the 3-point line. So, that and I'm talking about from the defensive side of things, and then it takes the wind out of our sails on the offensive side, and you can see it where we've tightened up so much now, and I know I'm responsible for that. There's a part that I played with that, because we were doing it so effectively for these games earlier in the season, and now as we start to bring our full squad back, whether there's this uncomfortable dynamic with our backcourt, whether there's this uncomfortable dynamic with guys returning and being starters or bench players, vice versa. It's the best way to describe it, I think, is awkward. And the disappointing thing is when it comes through with our energy and our body language, That's not something we're proud. Well, I know there's guys that aren't proud to display that, me being one of them. So we've got a different tact in terms of how we coach and how we present things to the group. But the reality is also there's for the most part of the game we're sitting in the 40s. Like that's a couple of games in a row now. We just can't tick the scoreboard over.
Yeah, just in terms of Steven Zimmerman's play in the last couple of games, at least at the beginning of the Hawks game, he played well, and in this game, he's obviously topped in a few of the charts. Did the hype around Pinder last week and your talk around how good he was as a big sort of spur Zimmerman on to be just a bit more aggressive in certain aspects of his game? Yeah,
and again, I know I showed my hand early with that, but I appreciate using the media as a tool as well to sort of motivate some guys. Some guys want a cup of coffee and a yarn and a pat on the back, and then sometimes you just need to publicly embarrass someone, and that's the great thing about Zim is the ultimate professional. So it was nothing to do the minutes or Keanu sitting on the bench. That was nothing to do with Keanu. It was more in the sense that Keanu's got a slight foot complaint and obviously had a migraine last week, so he wasn't able to train as much as we'd liked him to, and so by default Zim kept his starting spot. And the great thing about it was he gave it a legitimate run, so we looked for him in the post. He was giving us rim protection. There was a couple of times he was unnecessarily helping off the ball, and that's a part of a trust, right? How much do we trust our guys not to get beaten off the dribble? So, Zim, like I said, he answered the call, and we just need a few more guys to do the same.
And just with Tajir, obviously, his stats are taking a bit of a hit with Machado coming back into the lineup. Where do you see his role in the team going forward? Is there anything you wanted to see more of from McCall, or how do you like him? Yeah, and obviously teams have adjusted slightly, obviously, knowing that they can collapse in a little bit more on Taj. You saw effective slasher and cutter, and Taj is a natural leader and very vocal, and we definitely don't want him to take a back seat in that regard. We're going to have to work out how that backcourt's going to work now we're able to get some more minutes out of Scott. But I definitely don't want Taj taking a back seat, in any category. And the only thing I probably ask of him is he tends to burden himself unnecessarily with some of the frustrations of other things. And I want my job as a coach and the coaching stuff I got is we want to help try to take care of that, and we go about it different ways. But Machado's McCall's such the ultimate competitor that he just wants to win every game and every possession. And now obviously that we're in a very dark place in the sense of figuring out how to tick the scoreboard over and get wins. That burden is becoming heavier and heavier, and we've got to try and do a better job from the coaching side of things and also the playing group to distribute that workload over everybody. I know we've seen him in training be a bit of a leader, and I know we can't see what's going on in the locker room right now, but do you expect McCall to be one of those players leading those conversations on how you can get the team out from the spot that it's in? He
is, and that's why I wanted that to flow. So again, I do apologise that I don't have a player here with me, but he started it, he initiated it. It didn't come from me. It didn't come from because sometimes you can have these player meetings and it can be a bit of fluff. That was probably very real. So I left that to take its course.
That's it from me.
Thank you.
What about Scott Machado tonight, Adam? He looks still a little bit injured. Is he rounding back into form, do you think?
Yeah, I hope so. Scott's a big piece of what we're doing. I know he's coming back into the lineup and trying to find his way within the team, but there's a lot that we need from him. Slowly, surely, we got a little bit more minutes out of him today. Probably went a little bit over just because with the game still in the balance and Taj fouling out. It made it kind of awkward in that first half, but credit to Marshall and the group that we had out there. They did a great job weathering the storm, knowing we had Taj in foul trouble early and Scott on limited minutes. But the more minutes increase, the more we'll need from Scott.